production of the Mississippi State University Extension Service.
Today on Farm Week, winter temperatures may get milder in the south if forecasts come true.
We'll have highlights of the Mississippi Farm Bureau Federation's annual meeting. Protecting bees are one of the organization's new priorities.
In southern gardening, ornamental cabbage and kale, they're tough but beautiful.
In the markets, pond bank catfish prices continue to climb as the year nears an end, while strong export demand is keeping a floor under soybean prices.
In the feature segment, Grandin, this animal scientist is known for bridging the gap between animal agriculture and those who oppose it. She introduced how to design handling facilities which use the natural instincts of animals.
Pens have angled sides instead of square.
Actually, I found selling the design actually was quite easy. The thing that was hard was getting people to not beat up the cattle. Oh, the handling of cattle in the 70s was so awful. I would work with places and we'd put in new facilities, and they do atrocious things to the cattle in the new facility. You know, people would buy the thing, but they wouldn't operate it right.
Good day, everyone. I'm Leighton Spann.
And I'm Artis Ford. Welcome to Farm Week.
There is more snow on the ground in the continental United States than in many years.
Leighton, the first 2 weeks of December were among the coldest since record keeping began, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Mild temperatures, however, may be ahead for much of the country. The National Weather Service says 53% of the continental U.S. had snow on the ground as of December 15th. That's the largest area in 11 years. USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey says a high-pressure system over the northern Pacific Ocean helped funnel the bitter cold into the U.S. Rippey says that has broken down. He expects the south, the east, and the west to see milder temperatures. The northern plains, Midwest, and the northeast could still see cold conditions.
Few details have been released about the new farm bill that may emerge out of a conference committee for its first votes in Congress after the New Year's holiday. Mississippi's 1st District Congressman Alan Nunnally told Farm Bureau members in Jackson earlier this month he is confident the new 5-year package can hit a sweet spot, as he calls it.
We've got to find a sweet spot that does reform food stamps, but at the same time does give you the assurances you need and gives agriculture what it needs to move forward. I think everybody in this room is very much accepted the fact that direct payments are going to go by the wayside, and it's going to be put in place a system of insurance that will give you and your lenders the assurance you need to make the crop.
Nearly 650 members attended the Mississippi Farm Bureau Federation's 92nd annual meeting in Jackson, where Nunnally was one of the keynote speakers. Matt and Carrie Edgar of Yazoo County were named the winners of the Young Farmers and Ranchers Achievement Award for 2013. Matt told the membership it was the biggest achievement of his life.
First and foremost, I want to thank God for all the many blessings of my family and the opportunity to be a farmer, because I think some days that my job is just terrible. By the time I get home at night, I'm wore out and got to start thinking about the next day. But then I think about that I am my own boss every day, and the many people that would like to farm and don't have the opportunities.
Also honored by Farm Bureau were Reed and Kate Nevins of Lowndes County. They were presented the Young Farmers and Ranchers Excellence in Agriculture Award. Reed is the Lowndes County Coordinator for the Mississippi State University Extension Service. And Farm Bureau's highest award, the Distinguished Service Award, was presented to Commissioner of Agriculture and Commerce, Cindy Hyde-Smith. The issue of honeybees and crop protection was among the more high-profile policy matters dealt with in the MFB business meeting this year.
Very much.
We've tried to be proactive and reach out to our producers. We got friends on both sides. We have people that are in the bee business, in the pollinator business, in the honey business, and we know the importance of pesticides and herbicides to our row crop farmers.
In 2014, Farm Bureau is supporting the establishment and restoration of honeybee pastures and forage areas, and is supporting an educational outreach effort to be coordinated by the Extension Service and Farm Bureau to encourage more communication between farmers and beekeepers.
You know, I think we've tried to reach out to both sides and got those meetings put together, and we're able to come up with some language that both sides could agree on. And you know, it is really a really big national issue that a lot of states are just now starting to kind of get their hands around.
Also at its annual meeting, Farm Bureau named its first ever Farm Woman of the Year. The 2013 winner is Rita Seward of Seward Farms near Lucedale in southeast Mississippi.
A Mississippi State University and 4-H alumna has been named Miss Rodeo America for 2014. Paige Nicholson of Lawrence in East Mississippi was honored with the title recently at the National Finals Rodeo in Las Vegas, Nevada. The 22-year-old had to demonstrate her communications and horseback riding skills to earn the crown. Nicholson is the reigning Miss Rodeo Mississippi, and she was Miss Dixie National in 2012. Nicholson grew up on her family's farm and showed cattle with the Newton County 4-H program. She plans to be an advocate for agriculture during her year-long reign as Miss Rodeo America. She'll travel 100,000 miles representing rodeo, the Western lifestyle, and agriculture. Nicholson was featured in a Farmweek feature story back in 2012. Well, in this week's Southern Gardening segment, Extension Horticulturist Dr. Gary Bachman shows us ornamental cabbage and kale. They're colorful and they're easy to care for in the winter landscape.
Some of my favorite plants for the winter cool season are ornamental cabbage and kale. And believe it or not, there's still time to plant so you can add their color and bold texture to your garden. The display beds here at the South Mississippi Branch Station in Poplarville exhibit the potential of these foliage plants that is often overlooked. All are mostly green when first transplanted and begin to display colorful centers as the colder temperatures set in. An interesting fact is that ornamental kale and cabbage are one and the same species, Brassica oleracea. Ornamental cabbage usually refers to selections that have smooth or more or less unruffled leaves. The Osaka series is a great example with a color range from red to pink to white. Ornamental kale varieties display roughly and textured leaves. Chidori Red is a good example of having feathered leaf edges along with an inner hearth of glowing embers. I should point out that true red is an elusive color. Most varieties called red are really variations on dark purple to maroon. One of the best kale that has really been a good landscape performer in Mississippi is red boar. This Mississippi medallion winter has really crinkly leaves that show off an incredible dark purple maroon through the cool months. It works well in combination with the ornamental cabbage, since the red boar kale can be up to 36 inches tall. The only real pest problem can be cabbage looper that cause holes in the foliage. These insects are easy to control by spraying BT, which is a natural product. I'm horticulturist Gary Bachman for Southern Gardening.
Leighton Gary says you can eat ornamental cabbage and kale, but don't necessarily expect great flavor. It is bred for beauty and not for taste. In the feature segment today, she's controversial, but she has the respect of many inside and outside the cattle industry. We'll have a profile of Dr. Temple Grandin. Time now for the markets with Leighton. And Leighton, pond bank catfish prices, you say, tend to nudge a little higher.
And also feed booking prices for those growers for 2014 are even looking better, and we'll have more on catfish a bit later. We're also following these stories in the markets. Analysts advise patience in the corn pit as far as making sales, that it may bring rewards. Softwood lumber exports to China set a record, while the cattle trade has been awaiting the new on-feed numbers that came out Friday afternoon, the 20th. Wednesday's session in the soybean pit is being described by the trade as a volatile one. The private analytical firm Informa reduced estimated planted acreage for U.S. beans, and that supported new crop futures prices. Trader Naomi Bloom says it looks like we'll have over $13 soybeans possibly into the new year, and that it may be a time to make some sales.
with the fact that the global production is just so tremendous and our global ending stocks are huge and the United States producer is probably going to be planting more beans next year, don't get cute and try to wait around, because this is your opportunity coming, I think, over the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Also this week, Informa estimated U.S. planted corn acreage for 2014 at 91.8 million acres, a slight bump up from their previous estimated number. Analyst John Roach says he's not going to be aggressive in selling corn because of issues in the South American crop that will impact the global market and prices.
South America corn production is going to tank compared to last year. They can't make any money. They're not going to plant the amount of corn. They're not going to raise the size of corn. So instead of dealing with the supply burdensome, one of these days we're going to start talking about how small their corn crop's going to be in South America because they can't make any money, and how small it'll be again next year if price levels stay where they are. So the demand on corn, I think, is what people need to start focusing on, and I think that causes the market some bounce. Nothing crazy, just move to a price level where we can see grain moving out of first hands.
Turning to forestry, numbers in this month indicate North American softwood lumber exports to China soared to a record level in October, over 400 million board feet. Now that surpassed the previous record set in 2011. Exports from both the United States and Canada were record volumes for a single month. Well, our trivia quiz this week concerns weeds, and here's your first look at our question. What invasive weed is actually a variety of grain sorghum? Is the answer Johnson grass, or Palmer amaranth, or barnyard grass, or trumpet creeper? I'll tell you at the end of the markets.
We're going to pause for a short break on Farm Week. Coming up, we'll look at the calendar and the rest of the markets. Leighton Spann reports on catfish prices and the cattle on feed report. In the feature segment today, a profile of Dr. Temple Grandin. She's known in and out of the livestock industry for her work in humane animal handling. She's also autistic.
Mississippi 4-H celebrates a rich history of youth development through creative hands-on experiences. Programs emphasize leadership, technology, science, and agriculture.
But it's a lot more than that. Making the best better.
Before we get back to the markets, let's look at the Farm Week calendar. If you're about to start or have started a small business, the Mississippi State University Extension Service will hold a workshop each month at a location between Starkville and Columbus. It will be held the second Thursday of each month at the Golden Triangle Wind Job Center on Highway 82 near the Golden Triangle Airport exit. The first will be January 9th at 2 p.m. There's no registration fee. It's designed for people with an idea but little or no business experience. Determining startup costs and developing a business plan with cash flow projections will be discussed. Licenses, insurance, and the like will be covered. Monday, January 20th is the deadline to nominate bulls and heifers for the March 6th sale of the Mississippi Beef Cattle Improvement Association. The sale takes place at Hines Community College in Raymond. Once again, the nomination deadline is January 20th. Contact Jane Parrish with the MSU Extension Service for information. Go to our Farm Week website at farmweek.msucares.com for information on these and other events. Now check out this week's Farm Week Snapshot.
Farm Week continues with a check of the latest snapshot of our U.S. farm-raised catfish industry. These numbers reflect what was happening during the month of November. Last month, producers received a pond bank price of $1.11 per pound for premium-size live fish. That is 29 cents per pound more than was paid in November 2012. Now, farm sales totaled close to 24 million pounds round weight, an increase of 8% from 1 year ago. Processor sales were almost 11.5 million pounds. That is down almost 15% from November 2012. Friday afternoon, December 20th, brought the release of the last Cattle on Feed report of the year. Extension Ag economist Brian Williams discussed his outlook for the beef sector in this recent interview. Brian, the cattle market's been a little slower this week, waiting on the new on-feed numbers.
They have been. Part of it's probably because of the cattle on feed report, but also it's just naturally slow this time of the year with the slaughter being down with the holidays and that sort of thing.
All right, you've had a little chance to see what some of the trade is talking about, the on-feed numbers in advance. What kind of situation are we looking at? What kind of setup?
Well, what we're seeing right now is the average estimate out there on the market is the on-feed is expected to be down about 4.6%. Placements are expected to be up just a little bit, and then marketed is expected to be down a little more than 5% from a year ago.
So November may be a little larger than the previous report.
Potentially on the placements, but there's a lot of variability in there.
You were telling me they were all over the board.
Yeah, I saw
advance.
There's estimates anywhere from being down 8% to being up a little more than 4%, so it's all over the board on that.
So this report may, in fact, after it's released, be a market mover to some respect, depending on how those numbers shake out.
There's the potential there, yes.
All right. Would you say the fat cattle market is a little more fragile? Is it a little more subject to, you know, a quick reversal in these coming weeks?
I think it is. The general economy, I think, is a little bit more of a driver in the fat cattle market than it is in the feeder cattle market. And the good thing is that we've seen a lot of good reports coming out, the housing starts, the unemployment, you know, positive news across the board, but there's still some concern with consumer demand with higher beef prices there.
Mm-hmm. Now on the other side, flip side, the feeder market, that has definitely had some strength, and would you say that's likely to be supported into the new year?
I think so, yeah. We've seen replacement retention up this year, and when you combine that with the lower numbers overall, that's really helped to support the feeder cattle market. And then we have lower corn prices than what we had this summer.
Before our feature story, let's check out the trivia answer for this week, and the correct choice is A. Johnson grass is a variety of grain sorghum.
In our feature story segment today, a woman who's respected in animal agriculture. Not everyone agrees with her stands on all subjects, but they do agree she's remarkable. Dr. Temple Grandin is an animal science professor at Colorado State University. She's well known for her research on handling animals. She's designed many commercial livestock handling facilities in the United States and around the world. Grandin is also autistic. She says her disability allows her to see what animals see. Market to Market's David Miller explains.
Back in the 70s and 80s when I first started handling of cattle at the slaughter plants, and I'm not going to call them harvest facilities, that's PRBS. I'm just not going to call them that. Just BS. And when I went to Hollywood, I used the slaughter word, and it was just fine. And they were very curious about what was going on.
Dr. Temple Grandin, author, feedlot designer, industry consultant, and animal scientist, is speaking to a gathering of farmers at an annual Iowa Farm Bureau meeting. Grandin, arguably, is one of the most outspoken and influential leaders in the industry. The results of her work are evident from the feedlot gate to the packing plant stun line.
You know, we got to open up the mystery sheds.
For nearly 4 decades, Grandin has worked to increase awareness of how proper animal handling in the feedlot and at the packing plant is good for animals as well as the bottom line. She has combined innovative facility design, lectures, and hands-on classroom work to achieve her goals of efficient and humane treatment of animals. But achieving that goal was anything but easy.
Breaking into a man's world was really difficult, but there were some enlightened, good people in the industry, and they were some of the people that hired me. Actually, I found selling the design actually was quite easy. The thing that was hard was getting people to not beat up the cattle. Oh, the handling of cattle in the 70s was so awful. I would work with places and we'd put in new facilities, and they'd do atrocious things to the cattle in the new facility. You know, people would buy the thing, but they wouldn't operate it right.
Grandin's designs protect animal and handler while reducing stress for both. In the feedlot, her curved chute design takes advantage of the tendency for cattle to circle back to where they started. Races are just wide enough for one animal to easily walk towards a squeeze chute, and one-way backstops prevent any attempts at retreat. Elevated walkways and trap doors give employees escape routes. At the packing plant, holding pens have angled sides instead of square corners, and alleyways have non-slip surfaces. As animals approach the stun line, they are herded into a long serpentine chute. The curved walkway relaxes the cattle and allows them to follow each other, nose to tail. When the animals approach the stun box, they are supported by a center track restrainer system designed by Grandin. The restrainer helps keep the animals calm and prevents them from falling to the ground after stunning, making them easier for packing plant employees to handle. Her research and real-world results have proven the animals are easier to handle and produce a better product.
Now today, we got a lot more interest in good handling. And I worked with McDonald's Corporation back in 1999 on implementing animal welfare auditing. And when I did that, I saw lots of change happen because now the plants had to do it if they wanted to stay on the approved supplier list.
To stay on the list, suppliers had to pass Grandin's animal welfare audit with high marks. That meant 95% of the animals had to be stunned on the first attempt. No more than 1% could fall on the way to the stun line. No more than 3% could be mooing or bellowing, and 75% had to move through the line without the use of an electric prod. Grandin has autism, and she has devoted a good portion of her life to helping others with the same affliction. She tells people with autism to avoid thinking that their disability comes first, but instead to identify themselves as a person who has unique qualities that happens to have autism. Grandin will be the first to tell you that because of her autism, she thinks in pictures.
And when I was very young, I thought that everybody thought in pictures. I didn't know that my thinking was different. I didn't know that other people thought more verbally. So the very first work I did with cattle was to get down into the chutes to see all the stuff that the cattle were seeing, like shadows, reflections on puddles, a coat on a fence, a vehicle parked next to the fence. And I noticed that these things would make the cattle balk. And nobody had noticed it before. But since I thought in pictures, it seemed obvious to look at what the cattle were seeing. And say,
Her direct, off-the-cuff style has earned accolades from a wide range of groups who rarely agree on anything. They range from the American Meat Institute to PETA. Grandin believes the veil needs to come off the meat industry, and she is adamantly opposed to ag-gag laws that make it a crime to shoot undercover video at packing plants or on farms.
I think that ag-gag bills are the stupidest thing that ag ever did. Because when that hit the editorial page of the New York Times, and I was in New York the time that that happened, that just looked like cover up, cover up, cover up. You know, when you get bashed, you need to be opening the door, not shutting it.
In the interest of transparency, Grandin is working with the American Meat Institute to take the mystery out of what happens inside a packing plant. Bill Kauser owns the 5,200-head Kauser Cattle Company located near Nevada, Iowa. The design of his feedlot was inspired by a lecture Grandin gave almost 25 years ago.
After seeing her speech that many years ago, we came back home and went to work because now we understood why animals weren't moving correctly and why we were seeing the stress.
Recently, Kauser built a handling facility based on Grandin's design. He considers the $500,000 investment well worth the money.
I've seen a dramatic change in my employees, especially my feedlot manager. It used to be when we would get multiple loads of cattle in, you kind of tried to put it off a little bit. You know, it wasn't something that you looked forward to. Today, it's nothing to come in here and process them. And they also know that they're no longer standing in harm's way.
In December of 2012, Kauser got to meet with Grandin and express his gratitude.
You know, it was such an experience, a thrill and an honor to sit this close to a woman that has meant so much to all of us in this industry, livestock industry. And when she says something, I mean, you're just writing it down in your brain as she goes, because it's almost gospel when you're listening to her, because you believe what she says.
Grandin's work goes beyond being a spokesperson for low-stress animal handling. Since 1990, she has been a professor of animal science at Colorado State University in Fort Collins, Colorado. For more than 2 decades, she has taught a short course on feedlot design, animal handling, and general problem solving. Many among this next generation of ranchers, feedlot owners, and veterinarians travel long distances just to learn from Grandin. Pleased to no longer be a lone crusader, Grandin believes there are several reasons why it is easier for her to get the average person to listen to her message.
And I think some of this is, big customers demanding it. Because I've had a saying I've had for a long time, heat softens steel. And then reformers like me can bend it into pretty grill work. And the thing is, I want to bend it into pretty grill work, not just have a mass. We've got to do practical things that are going to work.
And you can watch this story again on Dr. Temple Grandin on our Farm Week website. That's farmweek.msucares.com. You can also watch Farm Week stories on YouTube and our Facebook fan page. Grandin has 2 websites, one for autism work and one for livestock work, and we'll have links to both. Well, we are at the end of Farm Week for this week. On our next show, we'll have 2 feature stories for you.
We'll look back at the year 2012 in Mississippi agriculture. It was quite different from 2013.
You'll also learn about the rising interest in gluten-free food products. Most of these are bought by people for whom gluten is not a problem.
In southern gardening, there can be color in the fall and winter with late red flowers and camellias.
For the rest of the Farm Week crew, I'm Artist Ford.
And I'm Leighton Spann. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.